Hello, I'm Greg Hartjes, Superintendent for the Appleton Area School District. Thank you for joining me for this third video in our series of referendum informational videos. If you recall, in the last video that I sent out, I was talking about what a referendum actually is, and then why were we looking at a referendum? Why were we considering the referendum? And I went through this slide where I talked about the needs that we have across our district based on aging buildings, aging facilities, and then enrollment growth on the northeast part of town. So really it's several different factors that come into play around those two topic areas. So what I want to share today is how did we go from having all of these needs to having a plan for how a referendum could address them. So I want to take you back to 2019, and at that time, in the fall of 2019, we brought together a very large committee. The committee was made up of 75 members, and it included a parent representative from each school, a staff member from each school, community members, and then high school students. And that group of individuals met 8 times over the course of 4 months, and there were lengthy meetings, and they discussed what the challenges were. So as administrators, we brought to them the many challenges we had from a facility standpoint, and just challenges we have with educating our students. And so what we looked at is to get input from them. They shared input with us. They gave us some feedback on ideas we shared with them. They asked a lot of questions. And ultimately, at the end of the 4 months, they came forward with a plan, basically a recommendation for our board. And a couple of pieces about that recommendation. First of all, what was really important to this committee was that we have equity going forward. So they didn't want us to build a new elementary school in the newest part of our district and forget about all the other elementary schools. They didn't want us looking to do something on the north side of town that we weren't doing on the south side of town. So as part of this referendum, we are going to make sure that it impacts every one of our students. So every school is going to have projects that are completed. Every one of our schools needs to be updated and renovated. We need to look at improving our spaces. So that's what we'll do, and that was really important to the committee. And then the committee shared several ideas, one of which was to move 6th graders from the elementary school into our middle schools. And that would create space at all of our elementary schools, and then it would help us support 3 years of middle school education for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. So a lot of ideas like that came forward and then were brought to our school board. And so then our school board in the winter of 2019, 2020, along with our district leadership team, that's a group of administrators, made some decisions based on the recommendations from this committee, and was just ready to put those into a survey to send out to our community when the pandemic struck in March of 2020. So at that time, as the district, we paused completely any planning for a future referendum, and we paused for a year and a half. So it wasn't until last fall in 2021 that we came back together as a Board of Education, a leadership team, and talked again about our facility needs and a possible referendum. So at that time, the board wanted us to go out and bring that committee back together again. So we did that. We brought the Future Needs Advisory Committee back together, asked them the needs that we had, the solutions that we were looking at 2 years ago, do they still make sense? And the committee said, yes, they do. They said they made sense 2 years ago, and now we're 2 years later, so they definitely are more urgent than they were. So then from there, we looked at putting together some focus groups to look at specific areas that we were targeting. Things like, should we build a new middle school as opposed to a new elementary school? Should we convert an elementary school to a middle school? We looked at all different possibilities for how to resolve our facilities challenges, and ultimately we came up with a plan, and that plan was rolled out through a survey to the 44,000 households that make up the Appleton Area School District. We did that in the spring of 2022. We received the results of the survey in June, this past summer. And so based on those results, the board and the leadership team again met several times, ultimately made the decision to move forward with a referendum that would have 2 questions. And so those are questions that I talked about in my last video, and in future videos, I'll give you more information. So that's what I have for you today. Please tune in to our next video, and thank you for joining me today.